Catron, how the hell are you, man?
Oh man, Craig Miller, I don't know how I've been doing. I just been a big fog, and I don't know what to say right now.
Hey, man, that's all right. It'll come back to you.
I'm a little frazzled.
Okay.
It's been a kind of crazy couple hours, so I'm frazzled.
Okay.
So hopefully I can regain center here. Hello, Craig. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. You know,
Sweet.
if you're having a bad week, I know something that would cure those ails.
What's that, sir?
I saw a movie last week that I think you're really going to enjoy.
Oh, don't tell me you got the chance to see it before I did.
Thor Ragnarok.
You saw Thor, dude. Do tell. Don't tell. Don't tell.
I'm not going to. Nothing spoilery.
I'm going tomorrow.
So I won't do that to you. But what's that?
I'm going tomorrow.
Are you going tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm going to go see it again Friday.
Nice.
If that's enough of a review for you. Yeah. But it's really. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I've actually thought about it. Let me put it to you like. Let me say it like it is.
Let me put it to you like it is.
I've been thinking about it in the sense that there's a lot of the movie that I want to see again. I'm not going to see it again as some kind of gauge. There's a lot of the movie that I want to experience again.
Interesting. Okay, so not as a whole, but just parts?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't want to come across as a knock. Like, I want to see the movie again. And enough of it stands out of things that I really want to experience again in a big cinema.
Okay, I like that answer.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie. Like, when it was over, I turned to the person next to me, I was like, that was a really good movie. And I was thinking that about 5 or 8 minutes in, the opening scene, which caught me off guard because it's the way it's presented in the trailers, it seems like it's like part of maybe the second act.
Okay.
But it's the beginning of the movie. And it sets up the tone of the film so well. And then it's so eye-catching. There's a special effect in it that I was just like, that looks really fucking good. But then the way he uses his hammer is different. Everything about the movie is different. Like, you could take the first and second Thor and toss them out the window.
Well, personally, I'd rather just toss them out the window and forget they even existed. Okay, so let's start right there.
It's really
wait,
really good.
I gotta come off the gate asking this question. We all know, anybody who's been listening to the J. Craig for any length of time, there's not a podcast or two that goes by that we don't talk about our hatred for a certain type of train that's rolling through town. And sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't, but that's the Marvel train. I know how you feel. The audience knows how you feel about Marvel.
Yes.
So, tell me, how does this compare to a Marvel movie?
It's way better than the majority of the Marvel films.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like a Marvel movie. Only it kind of loses its way. You'd probably call it the midpoint. It's probably the midpoint if I went and looked.
It's 2 hours, right?
The movie down. It's 2 hours and
Okay.
like 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's not overly long. It's not overly short. It feels about the right length. Get the pacing down right. There's a point where they've got to jump ahead and start working towards the third act.
Oh,
And
okay.
it just feels it's a little clunky, but I understand why they had to do it. But because everything that came before is so whack, and it's bouncing along on this like crazy, absurd, very dry humor energy for so long, the fact that it kind of has to shift gears and go back into kind of like, well, we have to story mode, get to where we're gonna go. You're kind of like, oh, okay.
Okay, we're going to go this route.
We have to kind of actually tell a story now. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas
okay.
before, it's just kind of bouncing along.
Interesting.
You know, there's no real objective to anything. I mean, there is. Like, Thor just keeps continually losing everything, like everything that's made him Thor over the course of the MCU. You know, you've seen it in the trailers.
I know. Come on. Okay.
But he's just, they really put him in a spot where you always say, like, you want to take things away from your main character. And it's just incredible. Chris Hemsworth is really good in the role. Like, he's given a chance to just be. He's given a chance to just be himself. I really hope. And I had this. It made me wonder about something. Is because obviously, the way Thor's presented and the way the movie is and the humor is contributed to Taiki Waititi.
Thank you.
Director.
That's what I was going to say his
I'm
name.
probably bastardizing his name anyway, but I'm close. And so I just
Right? So that director, he did...
hey Tina. So So, how was I just going to say?
Okay, Tahiki Wahigi, whatever his name is.
Okay, so his new creative direction in Thor, the way Thor's character is created, is a byproduct of him, or created by him. So, is that going to be how the Russo brothers handle Thor in the Infinity War movie?
Well, this will be the first time that we have seen Thor, in the Russo movies, right? He wasn't in the last two. So, good point.
So, yeah, like is that new direction of how his... I mean, obviously Hemsworth's going to play him how he wants to play him, but I wonder if Russo's going to be like, you're playing him a little comical. But he's not... It's not that he's playing him comical. The situations in it are just comical.
I saw the one thing I saw that really got my interest was I saw a clip, and I don't usually watch clips, right, of movies before they come out. That's your thing, right?
I do that because I'm trying to get a sense of the tone of the movie. Yeah.
So I watched the scene where Jeff Goldblum is introduced, or at least him and Thor are introduced to each other, and it's so oddball. It's so unique in the way that Jeff Goldblum is just kind of like in another plane of existence.
I've just got to say that this is one of those films where every character that comes on screen, whether they're on screen for a minute or 5 minutes or 10, they really shine. Like they own the moment. Like even if it's a 1 minute role or a 5 minute role, there's a lot of characters in this movie. A lot of characters. You got Carl Urban's in it.
Yeah.
Idris Elba's in it.
The usuals, Loki, Thor,
Fellow, Loki,
right?
There's a lot, and then there's a lot of like Jeff Goldblum's like bodyguard is this woman I've seen her in some movies before, and then there's some CGI characters like Tiki Wakiki plays a rock character, barbarian named Korg.
I'm glad he's in this movie. I wanted to know that. That's great.
Got a little side. He's got a little sidekick with like knives for hands. And it's like every single character is given. This is definitely Wakiki's strength. Is every single character has a personality and shines when they're on the screen. So when Jeff Goldblum shows up, like he's like extra weird Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
It isn't like he's like I'm going to play the Grandmasters. This guy's
like,
just
hey Jeff, I want you to do your Jeff Goldblum, your best Jeff Goldblum impersonation, Jeff, but take that to 11.
He is like doing a Jeff Goldblum impersonation. It's a good way to say it. It's kind of like what he's doing. Like he's doing an impersonation of himself.
Yeah. Like I will say, and I think people have probably heard us if they've been listening to the last couple podcasts. Anyways, we've mentioned our interest in Thor because of what the trailers are looking like, and because Tahiki Wahiki, what his last movie was, and I finally saw it, and we talked about it on one of the podcasts about What We Do in the Shadows.
I was bugging you to watch that for like a year.
Yeah. No, I still haven't seen his other movie. Where the wilder people are?
For the wilder people?
Yeah. So I got to see that too. But once I saw What We Do in the Shadows, I was like, oh, they're letting this guy direct a Thor movie? Okay. Let's see what happens there. And so far, the trailers have looked awesome, so I'm super excited.
It's not as goofy as the trailers represent.
Okay. Oh, good.
Which is
good to know.
Good to know. Not as goofy as that. It's the humor's dry. It's funny as hell, dude. It's laugh out loud funny in a lot of spots. It looks like nothing it has this kind of weird.
So is it like Guardians of the Galaxy then?
No, I was just gonna say the way that people are always saying like Guardians of the Galaxy looks like its own thing, and it looks like this crazy, colorful, bright world. He out crazy worlds the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, nice.
Totally outdoes it. Totally, like you're just like, who the fuck thought of that? Like it's just. The arena battle between him and Hulk is, let me say it like this, and this applies to all the action scenes. Is the action scenes are not like these pulse-pounding, thrilling action scenes. They're more presented as these visual spectacles. They're amazing to look at. Like you're like, fuck, like who thought of that? Like the way you're looking at it, the way it's presented visually, style. But they're not. They're exciting in the sense of the characters. Like, as the arena fight between Hulk and Thor is all about their characters. It isn't like, but it isn't like this thrilling battle scene. It's more about them playing off each other.
I see.
Which I like. And every action scene is about like that. It's about the characters, the choices they're making, and how it gets from point A to point B.
Right.
And there are, I think Carl Urban's a little wasted in it. Just due to screen time. Cate Blanchett's really good, but she could have been in it more. But she looks great in her little black outfit. I'll say that. But she's really good as Hela. She's very good. She's very menacing. Like when you know the finale is going to come, you're like, oh, this is going to play out rough.
Right.
Hulk. This is the best version of Hulk ever.
Really?
Like it's just he's just.
Well, see, I'm excited for that part of it because I wish they would have kept that a secret because I've read some of Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. And Planet Hulk it takes place where he becomes like a gladiator and he fights other creatures, and they were kind of taking that a little bit, kind of like how some of the Batman directors have taken certain parts of graphic novels and mixed them into same kind of thing. So we were kind of all hoping, at least the people who I know who are Marvel junkies, that they were going to do like that series for give the Hulk like his trilogy like out and beyond. Right? Maybe him leaving to him coming back. Because there's another story with him coming back and he's getting revenge on the people who sent him out in the first place. It's really fucking cool.
I think he operates better as a secondary character.
He might, and that's probably why they're deciding not to do it.
I think he does. I think they've given it a lot of hard thought, and weaving him into the storyline was a really smart move. And as I was watching the movie, when it came time for the arena battle, because you don't know it's the Hulk until he busts out of the wall.
Okay.
There's no preface to the fact that it may or may not be the Hulk. And all I kept thinking was, I understand from a marketing perspective why they put the Hulk in the trailer. I get it. Like, I get it. But if I wouldn't have known it was the Hulk when he busts out of that stadium, it would have been the audience would have got on its feet.
Right.
When he comes out of it. Because there's so much energy built up to that point in the movie and goodwill towards the movie. It's moving along. It's funny. Hemsworth is great. He's put in this situation, and everything at that point in the story hinges on him defeating this gladiator in the arena. And and then when the Hulk comes out, the whole movie takes this huge turn left. So if you wouldn't have known it was the Hulk, you'd have been like, "Oh my God, really?"
Yeah, I know,
really?
Right? That's what I'm talking about,
even
man.
Think about it. Yeah, like understand they're selling tickets and having the Hulk in it boosts ticket sales by probably who knows how much.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
Wouldn't have known. It would have been the biggest holy shit in 5 years.
Well, I mean, you could have. Okay, so there's a way to do that. You just don't show him coming out of you don't show his entrance. You don't bust his reveal. You don't reveal his reveal. In the trailer,
they could have used sections of him from another part of the movie.
Exactly. Like him sitting out at the end talking to him about this or that. I mean, that's more than enough to understand that Hulk's in this movie. But to blow your wad, so to speak,
they really blew it.
Yeah.
And when you watch, even though you may think that now, as you're watching the movie, you'll think it again. Like, I really wish I didn't know the Hulk was coming.
Well, dude, I'm gonna equate that to Darth Maul lightsaber trailer. I mean, let's just leave it at that.
Oh, it blows that out of the water 5 times over, man. It puts Darth Maul's double-sided lightsaber to shame. Yeah, and and there's enough. Like the effects work, everything about it downright fails on enough levels to where you're watching something great. You're watching a great movie, but there's some points in it where it needed a more dramatic heft to carry it way over the top.
Okay.
And if it had done that, I'd be talking about it like this is an amazing. You've got to see this movie.
Okay. Movie. So it's a couple steps short of that. Yeah.
There's a couple points in it. I'd say there's 3 points in it where it downright falls on its face. And I think that's more due to it's either Wakiti's trying to adhere to the Marvel blueprint or he's not committed to the dramatic elements enough. So
I see.
Whichever it is, you'll recognize the scenes when you see them.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I give it a huge positive review.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, man, because first of all, if you said it sucked, I would have been like, well, that's Craig. He doesn't like Marvel, so. But ultimately, I feel you. And
against things like I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off.
No, up
against things like Doctor Strange. Up against things like I did cut you off. Go ahead, finish your thought. Sorry.
What thought? I don't even know what it was anymore. It's gone.
I was just going to say up against things like Doctor Strange, which I enjoyed, but it's a Marvel film.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's fun, funny, Marvel
Right.
film. What else has been out lately? Enjoyed Spider-Man. I thought
Yeah,
Spider-Man very enjoyable.
Oh, no. Time out. You lambasted that movie for a while. I want you to come clean right now to the people listening to the J. Craig.
I've reevaluated my stance on Spider-Man. I mean,
and quickly, give me the 10 seconds.
I like it a lot.
Awesome.
I like it a lot. Like, very fun. It does. I understand the John Hughes movie comparison.
Yes, thank you. Okay, good. It's a fun movie. It's not perfect by any means, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the energy.
It moves along really well. I think there's a couple. I mean, it's a good.
Yeah.
And I think they just should have given Michael Keaton another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, in the beginning maybe to get him
helped a lot.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I like Thor better than all those films.
Good.
And I can't wait to see how he translates into the Infinity War. Because now I have. Because let me say this. Now I have a third Marvel character to root for. Because before it was just Captain America.
Right.
Who's currently one of my favorite cinematic characters.
Yep.
Right now, Hulk, obviously, because I just can't get enough Hulk.
Yep.
And then, and now Thor.
Really?
And I really, really like Doctor Strange.
Oh, he's in this, right? That's right.
Because he's in it, and I really like how because Thor's he's a god from another planet, but Doctor Strange is kind of Doctor Strange is coming across as like, how can anyone possibly defeat Doctor Strange?
Right.
Like, he's almost
Interesting.
He's almost like the MVP. He feels like the MVP right now. Like, there's anything the guy can't do. Like,
interesting. So how much is he in the movie?
Oh, maybe like 5-8 minutes.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
But it's really, like I said before, he comes on and he owns for 8 minutes.
I see.
I mean, he's really the way that you can tell that Waikiki loves the idea of these all-powerful characters that can do all these different, and he makes the most out of every character's ability.
Okay.
He makes the most out of the Hulk's abilities. He makes the most out of Thor's. He makes the most out of Strange. I think he actually he makes better use of Strange's. Granted, well, I mean, I can't say that because Strange had to learn his powers over the course of the first movie.
Yeah,
it's not fair. But he's really. This is Doctor Strange in his element.
Right. Okay.
Like he understands. He owns like the Thor's not even Thor's beyond it and being a threat to the guy. It's just like, look, you stupid blonde-headed lunk. Let me show you how what's going on.
Well, Doctor Strange is one of the 4 that sent the Hulk into outer space.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah,
Which would have been if they would have been able to hold off on Hulk's storyline. I would love to see Strange run up against the Hulk at some point. That'd be a real treat.
Right.
That'd be awesome. There's a lot to love, and there's so much to love in the movie. I can't wait to see it again because it's one of those movies where I can tell that when you go back and watch it again, you're like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that because it's hitting you with so much stuff.
Oh, kind of like Blade Runner.
It's hitting you like every few minutes. You're like, wow, that's amazing. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's hilarious.
Right,
that's
right.
Yeah, like even just the way people's like ships operate and the imagination on display is really, really something. So I can't recommend it highly enough.
That's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm going tomorrow. Paul and I'm stoked for it because it's the one of the last 3 that I'm excited for. Because I'm not excited for Justice League, and then obviously Star Wars is Star Wars. But
Sykes, and I know what state of mind you're going into when you go to see Thor, and when I think I've said it to you on WhatsApp. His introduction to the Grand Master is trippy. It's like Willy Wonka on steroids.
And it's not the scene that I'm referring to. Then the one they
no, it's
okay.
It's lead up to that. And
I see.
Like it starts off like real mellow, like la, 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 and then as it goes, I had to look away.
Oh wow!
And I looked just for a moment. I was like, okay, all right.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Well, I'm happy for that. I'm glad you got to watch something good. I watched something. I'm watching something good. I don't want to talk about it in depth yet because I'm only on episode 5, but it is Halloween, or at least it was, and Stranger Things 2 came out, and so I'm watching that on Netflix.
I haven't had a chance to even look at that yet.
Yeah, right. I know it, and I'm trying to get through it. I got to episode 5, and now I'm like, holy crap! Now I can't wait to see the next 4 or 5 episodes. So
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a tablet when I hit the States next week, and I'm gonna. I don't know if you can. Can you download them? Well, what I'm going to try to do is watch them on the airplane.
You can.
I'm flying from Atlanta to Paris, but Wi-Fi doesn't work when you're over the ocean.
Right.
But,
right.
So I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You have to find a way to download them. Yeah. So you can have them
like
on your iPad.
I'd like to be able to just watch that when I'm on the plane.
Right.
Awesome.
So I also watched. So I've been kind of on this Netflix thing. Right?
Wait, you can't jump ahead that quick. I have to at least ask you, how does it come? Like, does it have the same tone and feel the first season? How does it measure up?
Okay, so I'm only in episode 5. So it has the same feel. It doesn't feel as nostalgic, okay, as the first season did. There's something different going on in the feel for the movie. Like it feels like it belongs in 1984 or 83, but it just doesn't have the same playfulness, if you will, that was endearing. It just kind of like it kind of gets you right into it, and then it picks up kind of where it leaves off for the most part. Right. And so the tone's the same, but it there's a difference in the nostalgia factor as far as like like that longing to watch those kind of movies again. That's kind of missing.
Yeah. Well, could they have really done that again though?
Probably not. That's what I'm thinking. It's not necessarily a negative on it, but it's still something I noticed that's kind of throwing me.
Because if it would have been just like that, you'd been like, "Oh, this feels like more of the same."
True, that's true too, and that's what that's what's funny because I heard someone say that a critic said that it's just more of the same ground that they're trudging up, and I unfortunately heard that, and so when I started watching it, that was in my mind. I hate hearing those things, then you kind of start thinking of that way. You're getting that preconceived notion. So, but I'm now really liking it. After the 4th episode, like come episode 5, I was like, "Oh shit!" Now I'm in.
Okay.
Like it grabbed me hard as far as what the story was really going for, and once you get to that, then the doors open up, so to speak.
Okay.
And you're like, "Holy crap, this is crazy!" And it's getting to a crazy point. So yeah, but it's also it changes direction in the feel or maybe the genre that it's going for. It's going for hard sci-fi, like almost a little bit more darker. Okay, so it's going for a harder edge. The other one has some darkness to it for sure. But
in the same vein as when Hooper is Hooper the cop's name?
Yeah,
Hooper. When Hooper cuts open the body and it pulls stuffing out of it,
right?
Kind of a way.
Yeah,
because that's a pretty hard sci-fi stuff right there.
Right.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, it's going that route.
In the best way.
It's going that route, man, and it is picking up things that they didn't touch on that are 1980 movies, sci-fi stuff, that you'll see like, oh, that's nice. They didn't have that in the last one. Okay. There is some of that, I guess, but episode 5, I got it. I'm in, and I can't wait to finish it off.
How many is it? 8?
9, actually, I think, this year. 9.
Okay.
So I looked a little ahead. I wanted to see if it was 13, 9, or whatever. I couldn't remember what the first season was. So, but there's a new addition to the cast. And there's one thing I actually don't like is that there are 2 additions to the cast that are old 80s tropes. Paul Reiser and Sean Austin.
I could do without Paul Reiser.
His character's actually pretty good, but I'm just like, oh, they're bringing in more 80s people. Okay. I get it.
Because I thought, see, Paul Reiser to me, I'll have to see it to make judgment, obviously. I'm not going to...
Well, sure.
I
hate it.
Yeah. I'm not going to watch it now. But see, to me, Matthew McConaughey felt a bit inspired as a choice to me.
Matthew Modine.
In the last one. Thank you. Matthew McConaughey, yeah. All right. 11.
That's what I like about 11.
We got that upside down going on. But, Matthew Modine. But I thought he was a pretty inspired choice for the character they had him play.
Oh, he does really well. Yeah, he's actually
good.
He's in the last episode briefly.
Yeah, this cold, calculating, like Cronenberg type dude.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, he fit the role pretty well. The casting was excellent the first time. This time, I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to give it the whole thing, but it's a second season, so it has a lot to live up to. You know what I'm saying? But that's what Netflix has some good stuff, man. So I was hoping that when Netflix announced that they're doing season 2, I was a little disappointed. I actually thought it was great as it's like a singular story. And if they were going to do a Stranger Things 2, I thought it would be more like the Amazing Stories, where it would be a different group of people, a different story, but Stranger Things 2.
Right.
You know, I didn't. Yeah. I was like, I would have been fine with them just breaking off that story and leaving that being a one and done. And that's kind of like American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Same thing, I guess. I guess it's not new. They've done that.
True Detective.
True, exactly. So I was kind of hoping for that. But
I thought the same thing until the Duffer Brothers came out and said, we already had a longer story arc in mind. And I was like, okay, well, if you've already... But I believed them in the way I never believed the Wachowskis. Oh, we always thought of this as a bigger universe.
Right.
You did not.
No, you didn't.
Like, you tried to make a really good movie, and then you got paid a bunch of money to make a bunch of more.
They might have thought it would have been a good idea to make this into a bigger story, but they never had a bigger story.
Nothing beyond Neo-Flies.
And I truly believe we've had that conversation before on podcast, on the J. Craig, about that thing. Oh, by the way, you know, everyone, I hope you're watching on YouTube now, right? So if you are watching on YouTube, do us a favor.
Listening to
click the, not watching anymore unless you're just watching our little edit there. But hit the like button. Give us a couple likes, or just one.
And subscribe, for God's sakes.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Subscribe.
Right.
Please subscribe.
So if you're listening to on SoundCloud, that's fine. We're kind of jumping into YouTube a little bit more heavily. So any which way you're listening or watching us is fine. But check us out on YouTube.
Happy to have you as an audience either way.
That's right.
Yes.
All right. So with Stranger Things 2, I haven't finished it yet, but I also saw something called Wheelman. Have you heard of it?
I watched that on your recommendation.
Oh, you did? Okay, you did. Okay.
I watched it, yeah.
So Wheelman, Craig and I have talked about the whole heist movies and the Getaway Driver, you know, with Driver and Baby Driver and all those movies. Hell, we had a whole podcast on that shit. So I thought Wheelman was pretty cool. So it's with Frank Grillo, who plays Crossbones in the Captain America series, right?
He's kind of the de facto lead in the Purge movies too.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I think I remember seeing his name in there. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, but it's a basic Getaway Driver movie. But I'm actually kind of applauding what Netflix is doing, because they're taking stuff that would be normally direct to TV, direct to video.
Yes.
You know, stuff like you would normally do, and they're making something out of it through Netflix. But they're getting good talent that normally wouldn't get like A-list roles.
Yeah, I mean, what part of what they're doing is they're attracting some really nice major talent that has not, I'm not going to say they've given up on the big studio release system, but they're getting frustrated with it.
Like Brad Pitt, Will Smith.
Like, I mean, all these people that they're attracting. Fincher, Fincher, Brad Pitt, God.
Will Smith.
There's so many more on there. Will Smith, Ayer, but who have I mean, in so many interviews now, you hear them say, "Look, if you're not making a superhero film or trying to like design a new brand or tentpole, no one's interested."
Right.
And a lot of filmmakers and talent are getting frustrated. But so what Netflix has done is they've created this platform, smartly so, to give all these. Because Netflix needs content, right?
Absolutely.
Netflix lives and dies on content and new content, and what better way to even draw people in? Like, not just, okay, we've uploaded all the Disney movies, but we're actually having original films now. You can only watch them on Netflix. And if you like it, you can watch the damn thing again for free.
Right.
You know, we're not charging you for it.
And they release the seasons all at one time, which is super unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And did you hear how Fincher, I think his series was the first one on Netflix to do that, release it all at one time. And one of the reasons behind that was that when he caught up with Breaking Bad, he didn't catch up with Breaking Bad till like season 6.
Okay.
So he was able to watch the entire thing and binge watch the whole thing.
Right.
So when they were making House of Cards, they were like, we'll release one every week. And he's like, no, I don't want that. I want people to be able to watch it. I want people to be able to like sit there and like watch the whole thing if they like it like that.
Yeah. Why prolong it?
Well, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it should be the whole idea of convenience on Netflix is mammoth.
Yeah.
I can watch 2 episodes in a night. I can watch one. I can watch the whole goddamn thing.
Right.
It's a very popular thing for people to get together or singularly, whatever your forte is, and binge watch these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing that with video.
Yeah, exactly. But Netflix has given a new platform to a lot of great talent. And so a lot of talented people who never would have got their start in would have had struggled in the big studio system.
Right.
Or struggled to get, because it isn't like HBO starting a new series every goddamn couple weeks. But Netflix has just got this giant wad of cash from investors. And because their stock is soaring and their subscribership worldwide is consistently up and beating expectations, they can do all this stuff now. And they're making, I thought Wheelman was, I'd like to know what they spent on it, but it's a really nice, self-contained, high-quality product.
Well, it is. And actually, what I liked about it was the uniqueness of the point of view of where the camera was the entire movie. It took place in the car, which they never left the car. And I thought that was super unique because it's... And I also really like the fact that they take the driver, the prototypical driver, like, the cliche driver, and turn it on its head. Instead of being a professional who has all these rules and lives and dies by this, he's a divorced guy who's trying to make good with his teenage daughter, who he's got for the weekend right now. He's just off parole for something we don't know, and he's trying to keep his job, but he does this on the side to make money and to help pay for his alimony and all that. And he's a normal guy. He's just
it's one of those. He's like he reminded me of, in a Michael Mann film, the character who shows up for like a few minutes, who's very interesting, and you took that character, because the people in Michael Mann films are usually professionals, but they're very real people. They have families, they have lives, they have everything. And if you took one of those people from a Michael Mann film, like a side B character who's only on screen for a few minutes, and gave him his own movie, that's what it kind of reminded me of.
Gotcha.
And got a guy who's like, he's just look, he's telling the guy, like, the guy wants to talk to him. He's like, yeah, man, what's your name? He's like, look, no names, and know this, and no, it's my lunch, leave it alone. And look, I just drive and I just do this.
Right.
When the shit hits the fan, he doesn't know what to do. It isn't like he's this cold professional, like, no, I stay in the car, no, I do this. Like, he's not a cartoon.
Right.
He's not a cliched. He's not presented as a cinematic character. Ryan Gosling's character in Drive is a cinema character.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, a man like that doesn't exist in real life. He's a cinema character. Nothing wrong with that, but he's a cinema character, and in a very grand way. But Frank Grillo was a real guy.
Yeah, he's just a real dude.
Yeah, he's like using his cell phone. He's taking calls when he's driving. He's he's making mistakes, and then he's dead set to get out of it. He's making very impulsive decisions, like when he goes to the drop, and he's like, "This is I don't like this," and he just leaves. And they're all like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
Yeah. And he's very impulsive things, and it feels real.
Yeah. That's why I liked it. I'm glad you checked it out, man. It was pretty cool. It was just a nice change. And I like the fact that it was Frank Grillo, who's not a guy who's going to get a lot of lead acting roles.
I miss movies like that mid-budget level, or maybe a little bit below mid-budget level thriller. What I like about watching it was all character driven. No, I mean, there was probably some effects in it that are very subtle, but there's no, like, he's not trying to save the city. He's not trying to save the president. He's not trying to save, like, there's, like, the stakes. The stakes are basically his life and his family.
Right.
It's all about him.
Right.
It's him getting out of a situation. And I miss those movies, because those movies were a staple of cinema in the 70s.
Oh, sure.
And early 80s.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I really liked about it. It had a lot going for it that way. It wasn't a great movie. It falls a little at the end there. But, for what it's worth, I thought it was a lot of fun. I also watched...
Have you watched... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Duel. Have you heard of Duel?
No, you were telling me about it, the Western, right?
Yeah, Liam Hemsworth. We're talking about Thor. Chris Hemsworth, his brother Liam, who's... Sorry, Liam. He didn't get the acting talent that Chris did, unfortunately.
I think Chris went into their rooms in the middle of the night with, like, an Australian voodoo doll and sucked up all of the charisma out of all his brothers, and he left for Hollywood and took off.
That's totally it.
Because he's got wit, and he's got natural screen presence to spare.
Right.
When Liam showed up as the de facto lead, so to speak, in Independence Day, like, he's so flat. It is Liam, right? Because there's a bunch of those guys.
Yeah. No, I think it was Liam because I thought it was Chris Pine for a minute.
Well, you know what? You know what it reminds me of? How dare you, Jason? Chris Pine's talented.
I know.
It reminds me of when Alec Baldwin burst on the screen. Super talented, great screen presence, super charismatic, great leading man. And then his brothers started showing up on all these B movies.
Oh, yeah,
Daniel, Steve, and all these, they all had the same haircut. And none of them were anywhere near as talented as Alec Baldwin.
No, not at all.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Well, Liam has just he's just flat. Like, he can't read anything on his face. He's just he might sit there and stare like, an actor, chew that scenery up a little bit. Nope. It's just kind of a flat face and no expression.
I mean, it's a real testament to when they talk about who the real great actors are.
Uh-huh.
Like your Tom Hankses and your Gary Coopers and your Eastwoods and all those guys. I think what separates the mediocre actor from the great actors is the great actors don't need to say anything.
Well, that's it. That's exactly it.
Don't have to say anything.
Right.
And you'll hear stories all the time about how when they get a script, they just go through and they just start. I don't need to say that. I don't need to say this.
Right.
I don't need to say that.
I'm going to show that.
Lines. Yeah, cutting lines out of it. How much does I think Ford only has one. He has 2 lines in 2049 that could have been cut, but otherwise the whole thing is a read on his face.
Oh yeah, blistering on his
face.
Yeah,
great. He's great at it.
Ryan Gosling's good for that too, just by watching Drive and Blade Runner. Like, he's got a lot going on his face.
Somebody made an amazing observation on Blade Runner 2049. I never would have picked up on it on my own.
Oh.
Maybe after I watched it 10 times. Is, when he takes that little wooden horse to get it to find out what it really is and where it might have came from.
Right.
The guy says, this is real wood. This is extremely valuable. You could buy a real horse with value of this little thing, right?
Right.
So real wood is extremely valuable.
Right.
Okay. Who knows? Probably it's like gold. Who knows? And then when Ryan Gosling takes a shower, he gets that 98.9% pure water.
Uh-huh.
Burst at him for 2 seconds, and then that's all the water he gets. That's it.
Right.
And then when you go to Wallace's office building, the whole thing is wood and water. So he must be so intensely wealthy that he can afford to build out of real wood, and he's got water in abundance everywhere.
Ah.
And I had not thought of that. It's very subtle, but it's extremely it shows the level of comfort and wealth that he lives in. That he just whole rooms are made out of wood, and he's just got water everywhere.
Are you talking about Wallace, Neanderthal?
Yeah, Neanderthal.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow.
In his office building there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. Yeah. That's what
I'm saying.
A dense movie needs to be watched over and over again so you can catch those things.
When someone's thinking things through to that level of detail,
yeah, you can't catch
that's
it
where
on the first
people
viewing.
That's where when people say things like, "Well, I didn't like how so and so made this one choice." Okay, the movie's almost 3 hours long,
right? Packed
full of incredible detail and moments and emotion and all these things. Who cares if it's got one bad line of dialogue?
Right.
There is no. I mean, it's not. Maybe it doesn't work for you. It works for somebody else. Who gives a shit? And so yeah.
I mean, we've all been there where a scene can destroy a movie, but usually,
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're right. But yeah, man. So anyway, Netflix Duel, pretty cool, but not that great of a movie. Interesting aspect.
I'll check it out.
You know what? Actually, what I would have you watch it for is the 2 knife fights. It's called Duel, but it's not like a duel with guns, right? It's a duel with 2 knives, blades, and you should watch these scenes. It's brutal. It's kind of like, whoa! Can you imagine being strapped to a guy's hand to hand, right? Forearm to forearm.
Oh! So they're forearm to forearm.
Yeah,
that's like some Irish. That's some Irish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they both have knives. They're wrapped up. They're tied up, and they just have to keep stabbing each other until someone dies.
Yeah, no thanks. I mean, I'll watch it, but I don't need anytime anything hinges on the knife fight of me getting tied to someone's wrist. I'm going to be like,
well, it's the opening scene, and then it's not the ending scene, but it happens towards the end. and then then the movie finishes off. But oh yeah, you should check it out, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll check it out. One of my favorite fight scenes ever is the knife fight scene between Tommy Lee Jones and Benicio del Toro in The Hunted.
Ooh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's a great knife.
That's nice.
They
Nice
really
call.
go at it, man. God, they really go at it hard.
I like that. You were going to ask me if I saw something.
Glow. You watch Glow?
Absolutely. The wrestling show? Yeah, gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
I was really... I mean, who decided, like, we bought that? Like, who... It's such a great idea.
It is. And I used to be a big wrestling fan, but not back then.
I did not know that until 2 days ago. I did not know that until 2 days ago.
Because it was a long time ago.
As long as I've known you, we've never discussed wrestling.
We've never discussed wrestling. No, there's two segments for me. There's the early younger days in the 80s, and then I had another wrestling stint back in the mid to late 90s during the Hulk Hogan when he was a bad guy, and the Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. That time frame there, I was actually pretty big fan. And then that was
like their second heyday almost, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was at their second rise. Yeah, they had that first section though in the 80s. But yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I've heard you talk about wrestling before. Like, just you like wrestling.
Well, it always figured. I've never brought it up to you because, and I'm wrong, and I admit that I'm wrong. But it always seemed like something. If I brought up like WWE wrestling, you'd be like, "Why even talk about that?" That's so like you just seem like you'd be the kind of person who'd be like, "What? You watch wrestling?"
Well, if I see somebody today that's watching wrestling, I'm going to have that opinion. Yeah, because now it's bad. It's not good anymore like it used to be. Like when we used to watch it, and then those two different sports that I had, man, there was some awesome stuff going on.
Jason, the difference is we're in our 40s. Back when it was awesome is when you were what?
Okay, but you don't.
When you were a teenage, mid-teen, late teen, 20s. If you go talk to a mid-teen now or early teen and are in their 20s, they love it.
I disagree. Not the same way it was. There's no people like.
I haven't seen it, so I can't make a huge judgment call on it.
But who do you hear about? Who do you hear about that's out there wrestling like they used to have? Like there's no names anymore. There's no big, talking point where he's the guy. There's no Stone Cold Steve Austin anymore. There's no Rock. There's no Hulk Hogan. There's no King Kong Bundy. There's no Andre the Giant. There's none of the big dogs.
It's hard to find that talent. Man.
Well, yeah, but I mean they've been doing it for a long time, and you always had that guy. I think wrestling has kind of fallen off, and the characters are still there. They're still outlandish. You still have people who people remember, but I don't think it's nearly as it was so engaging back then. It's because the characters were so awesome.
Let me make this point. Look, I haven't seen wrestling in years, but I'm just going to make this point. I think this applies to almost everything now.
Craig, sorry, stop right there. I know we had a little power outage there, so we're talking wrestling here on the J. Craig. Wrestling on the J. Craig.
Yeah. Never thought we would have.
It's the strangest episode ever. So okay,
man. A lot of people are talking about it now. It's like having a little resurgence, like the nostalgia part of it.
Okay.
But what I wanted to say was before we get cut off there was, thank God I remember my thought is, you know how we're always talking about how the actors we get nowadays are like these pansified versions of like the guys that came before, and everyone's kind of all the same, and nobody stands out, and no one's unique, and everybody seems interchangeable. Well, you can like apply that across the board. Like, where are all the new breakout comedians? Where are all the new breakout wrestling stars? Like, where are the way that these talent pools exist now? And I don't know if it's a matter of what people think that the audience is looking for, or these people don't want to go into these kind of trades anymore, or they're hitting too much resistance and they're looking for faces instead of personalities. But it goes across the board. So if you're getting a lot of bland,
right there.
Yeah, if you're getting a lot of bland product, like across the board now, like everybody's just totally. There's no characters anymore. There's no there's no unique personalities to latch onto.
They're creating the brand on something before it's a brand, and you have this faceless or a face with nothing behind it.
Faceless word.
Just a faceless
wrestlers.
But, okay, but that's interesting because with the wrestling, it's the characters. So if you ask me what do I like about it was the show, it was everything, but
it was the characters, man, especially in the 80s.
The characters made it, dude. The characters made it.
Okay,
the characters made it. That's what, you didn't go to watch. You didn't go to watch wrestling. You went to watch Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper.
Right.
You didn't go to the Madison Square Garden to watch wrestling. You went to watch The Rock versus Goldberg
or whatever.
I don't know who was fighting at that
Undertaker.
time. I'd gotten out of it. Yeah, Undertaker, and all these different things. Like, you went for the spectacle of the characters in the show.
Exactly.
And the entertainment is what it was, and the gigantic soap opera they created.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And,
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's the number one thing about it was just the characters, the energy. It was a soap opera, right? And we all knew it. If you thought wrestling was real, then you just were blind.
There was a big debate about that leading up, especially leading up to like WrestleMania 1. There was a debate about, is it real or fake? I think if you're below the age of 14, you kind of thought it was real or hoped it was real.
Well, sure.
Maybe below the age of 10, you figured it was real. But if you were an adult, you were like, well, God's sakes, it's fake. I don't want to break your heart, but son, it's just a bunch of goofballs in the ring wearing spandex.
Exactly. Right.
Doing amazing things, by the way. And it was funny. We're going to jump all over the place this conversation, because
I have a feeling we are going to jump all over the place.
But it's amazing to watch like those old school, like the mid '80s when WrestleMania and wrestling WWE was it WWE or WWF first?
Well, it was WWF.
Okay, thank you.
World Wrestling Federation.
World Wrestling Federation. When that was first popular, like watching the kind of stunts and wrestling they did, like the two guys crisscrossing off the ropes for like a minute, passing each other, like that passed for the wrestling match. Whereas now, now they're doing like somersaults and spinning off things and doing jiu-jitsu in the cage and whatever else the hell they're doing. Like, it's totally the level. I'm not diminishing the level of athletic prowess those guys had back then at all.
Yeah.
But the whole thing has changed.
It has, and even with every sport, they're getting stronger, they're getting faster, they're getting more athletic.
Of course.
So with football, they're hitting harder, they're running faster. So it's a combination of all that for every sport. And with wrestling, when the 80s came in, and then even on past that, where they're even more athletic than they had in the 80s. And they're doing some crazy shit, some crazy stunts. So that's the other thing, is the characters and the stunts they were doing. You had the steel cage matches. You had the chairs that you could bring in the ring. You had all these cool things that you could use.
The last WrestleMania that I remember seeing was the one where they had a ladder in the ring, and above the ring they'd hung a suitcase full of money, something like that.
Okay.
And whoever could get up the ladder and get the briefcase of money won the match.
Yeah. I remember
so it was
that.
it was a big back and forth of one guy on the ladder, and he was reaching for it. He obviously could have taken one step up and grabbed it, but for the theatrical of it,
right.
He was reaching for it. He's tired and his arms hurt. And then, oh no, the guy that he just knocked out is waking up. Quick, grab the briefcase and go. He knocked the ladder over, and it was just the audience going crazy. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to be front row at those things.
Oh yeah, man, it's gotta be funny as hell. You get a glimpse of the craziness of the planning and the orchestration of it when you watch The Glow, like you brought up.
Yes,
they go through that very, very well. Like half the season is just them training, on how to do all these things and learning how to do things that are different and new. But man, it was just the wrestler. The wrestler talks about that a little bit, where I'm going to hit you here, and then you're going to hit here. And,
the wrestler is. I think the nostalgia of wrestling has gone through a few phases, and it went from the documentary of Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah.
Called Beyond the Gates, which shows.
No, I don't know that.
Oh, you've never seen it?
No. What is that? Say that again. Let me write it
down. I want to say it's Beyond the Gates. I'm going to look it up right now so I get it right.
Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake Roberts. It's never seen anything so sad in your entire life.
He was also no, not him. It was Brutus Barber Beefcake. Do you remember? Is that the right guy? Is that the right name? Brutus
Beyond the Mat.
Okay.
Beyond the Mat.
Okay. I will check it out. Depressing?
Pretty sure. Well, it is depressing, but it's interesting in that. Trying to get back to make you full screen again here. There you are. And it shows basically what it's showing is he, for a lot of reasons, and I won't get into the spoil any of the documentary, is he lost favor with the WWF, got too old, and it's basically the wrestler, but it's real life Jake the Snake Roberts. Like, it shows his drug addiction. He's got drug addiction, heroin addiction. His daughter is estranged from him. He just travels to these flea bag motels and does does wrestling things in like cafeterias and arenas and high school gymnasiums, and it's like this guy at once was like at the peak of the WWF, and now he's nobody clinging on to who he used to be.
Right.
And it basically there's no way you could talk to Aronofsky and be like, hey, did you ever see Beyond the Mat before you made The Wrestler? Oh no, never. There's no way he could say that. It's quite obvious he took people took Beyond the Mat, or somebody did, and made that into a fictional story.
Interesting. Okay.
It's a really good movie, but it shows you how little those guys got out of those days, even though they were working their asses off. How much, and I don't know when it changed, if it ever changed, but how much Vince McMahon was abusing those guys.
Yeah.
Not really, because they were making, I don't know what we could look up what the net worth of that organization is now, but
it's astronomical, and that's a huge talking point right there, man. Is he had a stranglehold on that. He really took advantage of those guys and girls involved there. Where I know that these guys and the girls, and also in football too, and I'm sure in a lot of other sports, that with wrestling, I mean, they take a beating, right? Even though it's all orchestrated, people get hurt, legs get broken. Shit happens. People have gotten killed by some of these stunts. The one guy jumped from the top of the rafters, and when he landed, his head hit the pole.
Wasn't he supposed to be on like a deceleration device?
Something
device
like that.
It failed.
Maybe I forget exactly what it was supposed to happen.
The Hart brother, right?
Yeah, it was one of the Hart brothers. Yeah.
One of the Hart brothers.
Yeah,
I remember that. That was devastating. Those were good guys.
Yeah. So, and there's been a couple things like that, and then you have the guys who have gone and did some crazy stuff, like Chris Benoit, who killed his family and then killed himself. He was like, they were calling it roid rage kind of thing. Because these guys were going through a lot to get to where they were, right? And I think you said it before. When you reach to number one, when you aspire to number one, right? It takes a toll.
It's sacrifice, man. Like to be the best is not. Nobody ever sat back and just became successful at anything.
Right.
And that's why you see people always like, well, so and so was only 60 when they died, or 65, or they got this, they got that, because the toll those kind of things take, whether you want to be the number one race car driver, or number one football player, or number one wrestler, or number one code, maybe, Tech Valley, whatever, or number one entrepreneur, it is a 24/7 commitment,
right,
to be the best. And look at someone it's amazing that someone like Spielberg seems as healthy as he is at his age, but then again, Eastwood's gonna live forever,
right? So you can't make a blanket statement.
You can't make a blanket statement about it, but for the most part, it takes its toll on you, because it's harder for some people than others. Some people get overnight success in their early 20s, and they're able to just maintain that. Other people struggle for 10, 15 years and then finally hit it, and then that 15 years took its toll,
right?
Right. And you got the overnight success versus the guy who struggled, or woman who struggled to get there, is much different, and maybe a little more rewarding for the person who struggled. But then again, it took its toll,
for sure,
emotionally, physically, and everything else. So, but to be number one, to be a wrestler, especially as it got popular and they're all jockeying for position in the spotlight, steroids or whatever performance-enhancing drugs there were, crazier stunts.
Right.
Bigger falls, bigger this, getting hurt, more appearances.
Being forced to sign bad contracts.
Yes, exactly.
Very bad contracts where they were just robbing them.
But dude, those guys, if you look at what they did on a nightly basis, like the amount of physical exertion that went into fake or not, the level of athleticism those guys were doing is incredible.
Absolutely.
And then to leave there, and I don't know if they got on the bus and slept or what, but then to do the same thing again the next night in a different town.
Right.
Just a little bit of sleep. Of course, you're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to coke up, or you're gonna have to steroid up, or you're gonna have to do something.
Right.
Pace. And because if you're like, well, I need a break for 2 weeks, the man's like, no, like you're committed to X amount of days in a year, or whatever the contract said, or you don't get your bonus if you don't do the Madison Square Garden show, you don't get your bonus. And the guy's like, well, I tore my shoulder, my rotator cuff.
I don't care.
Like, it's not my problem.
Exactly. Exactly.
Are you gonna fight the Undertaker or not?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just that's the kind of thing that were the people who were committed in those sports that depend on your body. It's a tough road, man.
Yeah, it is.
Especially.
It is. Well, and I feel like you should be saying this because I think you've said it before in the past, but there's a phrase about burning twice as bright.
Yeah, like the candle Tyrell says it the Roy Batty.
That's right.
It's true of all these things, is that the candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long.
I think that's true for a lot. Yeah.
It's a truism of life. Like, it's not Blade Runner is a masterpiece. I mean, it's that statement, even though it's applied to the replicants, applies to life.
Right.
The people who live life to the fullest typically aren't pushing 95. Typically. Not all, but typically. The people who really get out there and go after it don't live as long because the amount of abuse they put on their body is just debilitating.
It is.
Like
it's tough.
I saw a picture of, because we started talking about wrestling the other day, I just started looking up random people, and I don't know how this crossed into my Google search, but it pulled up one of the bodybuilders from the heyday of like the 90s.
Okay.
Huge guy, Ronnie Coleman. Gigantic human being.
I know the name. Yeah.
Okay, you know who he is? All right.
Yeah.
Gigantic. There's no way the guy wasn't doing steroids. I mean, it was quite obvious. He was on who knows how many science experiment transactions going. But they showed a picture of him now, and he's got a walker.
Oh, yeah.
But he can't. He's only like 60, maybe.
Well, you're putting all that weight and all that muscle on. You can't grow your
bone.
Your
skeleton's
bones,
what
right?
it is. Skeleton is what it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because back when I was a lot fitter, people would always be like, "So you on steroids?" And I'd be like, "No, like I don't want the fallout for that. I just don't." There were times in my life where I was like, God, it'd be pretty cool to try steroids, but then the fallout, I just figured just wouldn't be worth it,
Yeah.
But those are guys who were, if you look at like the wrestlers, obviously there are a lot of wrestlers on steroids in the 80s, obviously, but I don't think it breached the point of like the holy shitness until the Ultimate Warrior showed up, and you were like, where did that guy come from? Like, right. Jesus Christ. And he was like, that guy was a prototypical 80s. He was a product of the 80s. Like, he had the headband on, he had this things. He was like the Rambo for the WWF.
That's awesome.
And after him, like, guys just started getting bigger and more aggressive, and it just started getting out of control, man. Yeah. So wrestling has, I mean, the early history of, I remember when the first WrestleMania was coming up, I had to watch it. Like, there was no way we weren't going to watch it at home. And I was like calling relatives, like, "Hey, are you going to have the WrestleMania?" And they were like, "The Wrestle what?"
Okay. So this dates back for a long time for you. So let me ask you a question, Craig. With wrestling in mind, and you're watching it back when people are like, "What? Wrestling? What?"
Yeah,
what is your favorite wrestling moment?
It's Piper, man. It's Roddy Piper. It's Roddy Piper being interviewed, and who comes in? I want to say no. It's Roddy Piper arguing with Macho Man Savage.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the memory I have. If that never occurred, I'm sorry, but that's the image. I have this image of Macho Man trying to do his thing and Piper interrupting him, and you can see the frustration on Macho Man's face.
Right.
Because Roddy's not letting him do his thing. And then I was a big fan of Piper. And then when he
Of course you were.
retired or whatever he did, and then when he was in John Carpenter's They Live, I was like, Roddy Piper's going to be in a John Carpenter movie? Like, is it Christmas? Like, what just happened?
That's awesome.
Like, I don't understand, like, the universe, like, what just aligned in the universe to make this possible? Yeah.
That's
so,
awesome.
and he was very good in the movie.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's got a couple of shortcomings, but he plays it right.
Yeah.
Carpenter uses it very well.
Oh, yeah.
And finds a way to use his wrestling abilities in not a cheap way, but it's great. One of the greatest fight scenes in history.
Oh, I love the fact that he gives him a
awesome.
suplex.
It's awesome.
He gives him a suplex.
Oh my God, I love when Keith David talks about filming that fight scene, and he says at one point, he's like, "Well, Piper knew exactly what he was doing, obviously, and he was helping me through it." And Carpenter would be asking like, "This is going to work or that going to work?" And he's like, Keith David, what is like 6'4"? He's a big dude.
Yeah, he's a very big dude.
And he said Piper was like, "Well, what about like this?" And picked up Keith David and held him and was like, "Well, what if we just did it like this and I turned it this way and I dropped it this way?" And was basically just holding him. And he said, and Keith David's like, he is the strongest man I've ever met in my entire life. Like, he just picked me up and was just holding me. Like I felt like a child. Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm just trying to imagine that. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
that's awesome.
And the fact that because Piper died young, man.
Yeah, he did.
And that's another thing. Like those guys, Lilo's guys boozed. Lilo's guys did a lot of hard drugs. If you're doing that, if you do that 5 nights a week, you're on cocaine. You're on something like, and it's not a knock. It's just the nature of the biz. Some guy says like, hey, you need to keep going.
When they're the big time, WWF and Hulk and Randy and Roddy, Piper and all those guys they're not doing it 5 days a week, are they? Aren't they just doing it televised? Now they're doing televised. Now it's like once or twice a week, right?
Well, they've probably. I don't think it's because it's more established now. They don't do it as often. But back then, it was more often, like because they were trying to build a brand.
So you're talking about like when pre Ric Flair.
I'm talking like 83 to like 96, probably. When they were really still building the brand. And they were doing that. They were, one big show and then another big show. And Steve, Stone Cold has a podcast now. If you're not listening to it, I recommend it. But he had a podcast with Bill Burr, which is a great listen. And he was talking about how they were talking about the road, like because Bill Burr was a coming up comedian.
Right. And
it was on the road all the time, going to shitty comedy clubs doing this. And Stone Cold was like, yeah, well, it's the same lifestyle. Like you're in shitty hotels. And then you're doing your bit, and then then the next night you might get a night off, and the night after that you'd be ready to do it again. It was extremely interesting. I encourage you to listen to it because they talked about how, like Bill Burr was talking about how when he was an up-and-coming comedian, because Bill Burr was a guy who was not an overnight sensation comedian.
Okay.
He didn't even hit it. He's 48 now, and he's only really hit a high level of popularity in the last like 4 to 5 years. So He was already into his 40s before he hit, kind of like Louis C.K. hit it a little later in life. And I really admire guys like that who stuck it out and then hit it later on. And they stuck to their guns, their brand of comedy. So he was talking about how, like the first time he was the headliner, because he'd been an opening act or he did the 5 minutes and did this and that. And then when he finally was a headliner, well, that's a full 45 minutes or an hour of material. And Bill Burr's like, shit, man, like I didn't have an hour, but I can't not be the headliner. I can't turn it down, so I got to make an hour. And Stone Cold was like, yeah, man, because when like we would be the warm up matches, the little 5-minute matches and so on. He goes, I remember the first time they were like, okay, well you're the such and such. Well, okay, you got to be out there for 18. Your match can be 18 minutes. And he's like, 18 minutes. What are we going to do for 18 minutes? Like, that's a long-ass time to be out there in a ring.
Right.
And he started like, well, we'll get with the guys. Well, okay, well, you do this, we'll do that. And at this point, we'll lag down so we get a little breathing time, and we'll do this. And you've got to build your act. So it's the same thing. Like, Bill Burr had to build his act.
Right.
And Stone Cold had to build his act and find out what the audience responded to in him and what his signature moves and style was going to be, and build that persona that became Stone Cold Steve Austin. And they talk about it. They're both, and they find this common ground in the conversation where they're both just entertainers. That started out exactly the same way and had to build themselves up to where they eventually became. It's very interesting how they're both just like, and they both have the same like lexicon, like terminology for things. And they're both just like, yeah, man, it's just like this. Yeah, you're right, it's just like that. Yeah, exactly. And they're just riffing. And it's a really interesting conversation. But it's just
cool.
But it really shows that it wasn't like, you know, and it speaks to like when you're watching wrestling, Stone Cold Steve Austin came out there, and you're like, wow, who's this guy? He's really cool. It wasn't like they just found that guy and he went to training camp.
Right.
He's 20 or he was a football player, right? NFL.
I believe
got
so.
out.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. And then needed something to do and had injuries and had knee problems or whatever, and needed something to do, went into wrestling and had to work his way up. Yep. And then got into the spotlight. WWF was the place to be, and so he was.
For him, it was WCW at that point.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I believe.
I'm not as versed on my history in that point of it. I just know who the guy is because I just thought. I always see these when I was in Iraq. I used to watch his direct-to-video movies.
Yeah, right. So that's another cool thing about the wrestlers is a lot of them have made their way into the acting world because they are, as you say, they are entertainers. They are much more entertainers than football and basketball athletes are, right? Because they're performing on a different level. This is obviously very athletic. They're very trained. They do a lot of their intricate details on what they're doing in these things so they don't kill each other. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to get. Like, you can go out there because the possibility of getting really hurt doing that is very high.
Absolutely.
And I forget the guy who used to play the Mankind.
Yeah.
Wore the mask.
Mick Foley.
Thank you, Mick Foley. He has an interview where he talks about Ric Flair, and that every night before they would go on, Ric Flair would call his family and he'd be like, put so and so on the phone, put so and so on the phone. And he would tell each and every one of them that he loved them. Because he was going out, not that he thought he was going to get killed, but it was just his thing and how close was his family. Because he could have got hurt.
Yeah, and you could get killed.
You could have turned left instead of right and got a chair in the neck.
Right.
That could have happened. That could happen. And I'm sure a lot of guys got. There were sometimes I remember watching wrestling and I was like, he looks really hurt.
Right.
Yeah, she looks hurt.
Right, and you can't tell.
Yeah, and then the guy's probably just like. I'm sure he whispered to the guy like, "I'm really hurt. Like, can we take it down a notch?" Kind of a thing,
Yeah.
And but they've got 5 more minutes.
Or there's like a catchphrase they use or a signal that they throw out.
Safe word, exactly.
A safe word. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing that I loved about it was the charismatic aspect, the show, the showmanship, and they all had such unique characters and the songs and. The rivalries in the 80s just was so pumped full of characters. They had a cartoon based upon these guys with Hulk and his friends.
Yeah,
it's a fucking cartoon, man.
Well, Hulk Hogan carried the WWF to what it became.
Oh yeah.
Because Hulk Hogan, I don't have all the company names right. I'm going to explain this the best that I can.
Okay.
And maybe you could fill the gaps, and I'm not sure. But Hulk Hogan was wrestling like in Japan under a different company.
Right.
And then he came back to the States and he shot Rocky III.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then the owner of whatever company he was working with got pissed off at him for basically moonlighting in a movie. And then I can only imagine. And
Hulk Hogan had a reality TV show.
Yes, he did. He did. After the fact.
Awesome.
And just in case you didn't know that. And which we'll get to later, folks. And so he became a free agent basically. And he was the first guy to like sell his own merchandise.
No kidding.
And he was doing that in Japan, and he was making his own money because he sold his own merchandise and made his own money off that. So when he came back to the States and WWF and
I think it was WCW and WWF. There were two different
Okay. Whatever the
things.
whatever was the other potentially more popular at that time was going to sign Hulk Hogan, but they couldn't come to an agreement on his contract, mostly around the merchandise. They wanted a bigger cut of his merchandise than he wanted to allow. And they gave up the opportunity to sign Hulk Hogan, who was the only name brand wrestler at that time. And he went to WWF, and that's the only reason WWF is what it is, because of Hulk Hogan. Like, he was the character. He's why you tuned in to WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah.
He's why American Made and all that stuff. Like, that's it. So the other company gave that up and never became anything because they couldn't reach a merchandise.
Okay, and that's actually very, 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 very interesting, because I never liked the other wrestling, WCW. It had the Road Warriors, which are kind of cool. It had Sting. Ric Flair was a part of it.
Yeah. Okay, so
they had
Ric
big
Flair.
talent, but they didn't. But they didn't. Something was different. Like WWF felt more polished.
WWF is kind of like Macy's, and WCW was Walmart.
Kinda. Yeah,
No.
I mean, they had great athletes. They had great talent.
They
but
just didn't have the right promotion. They
Right.
didn't have the right contracts. But that's where Vince McMahon's. I liken him to what Dana White is now with UFC.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Vince McMahon was an amazing promoter. He knew how to spot talent. He knew how to put talent up against talent. He knew how to create matches. He knew how to create hype. He
Right.
knew how to get this thing past the core wrestling audience.
Right.
Because unless you bridge the core wrestling audience, it goes nowhere. And that's where that cross promotion between WWF and MTV. Remember that? That's how that whole thing came about. Was Cyndi Lauper met
That's right.
what the fuck's his name? What's his name? Who was in her music videos?
Lou Albano.
Lou Albano.
Yeah.
She met Lou Albano on a vacation to Puerto Rico, of all things. They started talking. He was in her music video.
Yeah, the guy
And
with the
then
rubber bands
that-
all over his face.
Yes, and then that started the whole cross promotion thing
Yeah.
going on that Vince McMahon engineered,
Yeah.
and then which led to eventually Mr. T being in WrestleMania 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
2. Was he in 1 or
Yes.
2? I think he was in 2.
I want to say it's 1. I think wasn't that the first WrestleMania of all time?
You know what?
Let's look it up. I don't want to get that wrong.
Seriously, because that is really, really, really bad of us. WrestleMania 1985. Mr. T, you're right.
It was WrestleMania 1.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was the big match. And did you know Mr. T was the friend was trying to get out of it at the last minute?
Really? Was it really?
So the story goes, this is from Hulk Hogan, is that Piper and Paul Orndorff, is that who they fought?
Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful?
Mr. Wonderful, thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm actually
I know my
better
shit,
than
dude.
I thought. You are. You're gonna. Yeah, you're the MVP of this podcast for sure. So they didn't like the fact that an actor was going to be in their domain,
Oh, no shit.
and so McMahon was like, "Don't hurt him." They're like, "Well, what do you mean? What if he's here to wrestle and so on?" But rumor was they intended to hurt him.
Really?
And Mr. T was getting cold feet because he didn't want to get in there and get hurt.
Uh-huh.
And so because Mr. T he knew a couple basics from like high school wrestling, but he wasn't at their level, obviously. So Hulk Hogan talks about like the months leading up, like they'd have a training day, Mr. T wouldn't show up, and then like they had all these things going on, and then he tried to get a hold of him, and his agent was like, he's in the park sleeping with bums or doing this and that, and he's doing some charity work and so on and so forth. But the night of the match, they were going on at 7:30 was the match, and so Hogan got there early like he was supposed to prep because he was the star. Hulk Hogan is the star.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
They were like basically one step away from calling the thing Hulkamania and not WrestleMania.
Oh, my.
Luckily, they called it WrestleMania. But anyway,
Right.
so like Mr. T wasn't there in the morning. He's like, okay, whatever. So 3 o'clock, he's like, he's not here. That's okay. 5, he's like, Mr. T's not here. He's calling so and so, and he's calling. No
Right.
one's answering. They can't find Mr. T. 6 o'clock rolls around. No Mr. T.
Oh.
6:30. No Mr. T. 7 o'clock. No Mr. T. And he's like, what the fuck's going on? So then finally somebody calls Hulk Hogan and says, Mr. T's outside. So Madison Square Garden. They won't let him in. It's like, what do you mean they won't let him in? He's like, well, he came with his entire entourage of like 60 people. They can't let them all in. He's like, there is nothing without Mr. T. Like that's the whole thing's predicated on us fighting so and so. So Mr. T went down himself. Hulk Hogan went down there himself because McMahon called Hulk Hogan or saw him in person because there was no cell phones back then. Right. And it was like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And Hogan's like, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Went outside, and Mr. T's like, oh, they won't let me in. And I got my guys with me. And he's like, everybody comes in. Everybody, blah 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 blah. Everybody. Don't worry about it. And got them all in. But he said that was Mr. T just kept trying to find a way not to go in there. And so that was his last thing. Like, oh, they won't let me in. I can't come in. I can't go. And he said he just kept trying to find a way to navigate out of it, and everything turned out okay. He said unless you can't see it if you watch the match. By the end of the match, Mr. T is obliterated, exhausted, like he barely keep his arms up.
Oh wow!
He's so exhausted with the entire.
You know what, man? I've got to watch some clips of that. It's been so long since I've seen that.
I haven't seen it in forever, yeah.
But I mean, that's what's so cool, man. He orchestrated this huge thing with Hulk going on there. That story that you told there, I did not know. That's really cool, man. He grew something really, really exciting because the characters for me were awesome, man. I mean, back then in the mid '80s, between Roddy Piper and Hulk and Randy Savage and Andre the Giant, you had Jimmy Superfly Snuka, you had the British Bulldogs, you had the Junkyard Dog, you had SD Jones Small Package, you had, I mean, there were so many
Macho Man.
Yeah, man. Oh yeah. You had so many. It was so cool fun.
Man. And you know what spurred my interest a couple days ago, in like kind of resurged my interest in wrestling, was there's a 30 for 30 next week on ESPN for Ric Flair.
Oh, that's right.
I do. Gotta watch it, man, because I just watched a couple snippets online. Oh. It might as well be called the Ric Flair Comedy Hour. I mean, he's one of those guys, and I'm sure if I watched something on Hogan, I'd get the same opinion, maybe. But Ric Flair was a hard-drinking, hard-living dude.
Yeah, for sure.
And his stories are so interesting about his lifestyle in that time, because they didn't reach that level of promotion that the WWF did, so he lived a life on the road, making great money because he was the star of his organization.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know how much money he's making. It was the '80s, and then he was gambling or doing whatever on the side, and he tells these great stories about. These are just snippets they showed out of it. I watched like maybe 5 minutes of what's probably a 2-hour show.
Okay.
And they were asking about his drinking problem. Because he was well-known alcoholic, and he's like, I don't know if he's an alcoholic, because alcoholics got a problem. Because I never tried to quit.
So I got no problem. I just drink.
Was that really a problem? And when he tells us the one that got me was, there's a couple others, I won't spoil it for you, but the one that got me was he would always wake up with strange women.
Sure.
Because he would famously get blackout drunk all the time. Almost every night. Well, not every night, but a lot. And so when he'd wake up with these strange women, he referred to them as aliens. Like, I woke up with these 2 aliens.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And, so what he's referring to is a girl. I woke up with these aliens, one on each side of me. So there's 2 girls on each side of me. Wakes up, can't remember anything. Looks down at his wrist, and his Rolex is gone. And so he wakes his girls up, and he's like, "Hey, where's my Rolex?" And they're like, "What? You don't remember?" He's like, "Well, remember what?" He goes, "You really don't remember?" He says, "No. We were at dinner. We were out last night at dinner, and you took off your Rolex and you threw it into a bowl of spaghetti and said, I got 15 of these fucking things."
That's awesome.
And then apparently they left it there. He was just – a bit of it is a bit not sad, but he almost died this last year from, I want to say, heart failure.
Something like that. I remember hearing about it, yeah.
So the current interview with him, he's whatever happened to him took its toll on him. It totally slowed his roll, and he's only, I think he's 68, 67, 68. But whatever happened to him just stopped him in his tracks.
Okay.
Now he's old. Like, he became old now. Yeah. Like, before he was still very youthful, and now he's like, it beat him up. Like, maybe he'll bounce back to a certain degree. At his age, it's probably a little tougher, but not a little tougher. Not probably, it is. But it slowed him down. Like, apparently he almost died. Like, he had already made his peace. His family came in and said their goodbyes to him.
Oh, really?
And thought he was out. He said, all I was trying to do was live through the night.
I do remember that he had a near-death situation there. Yeah. Okay.
But what a lifestyle is. You go you go from town to town. You're this enormous beast of a man.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible charisma. You're the center draw. You go to these wrestling matches. This big show. You come out of there. Every guy in there wants to be you or get your autograph signed. Every girl coming up to you wants to sleep with you. You go out hard partying that night, sleep with whoever you want, and then rinse and repeat the next day. Like, what a crazy-ass fucking lifestyle.
I mean, okay, but between that and the abuse on your body and the abuse of the drugs and the abuse of the steroids or whatever performance-enhancing drug.
Sure.
And we touched on it a little bit earlier. I'd like to touch on that again, actually, is the after effects, right? Like, these guys, they put their bodies and their minds through hell, right?
But he was number one in his category, whatever you want to call it. He was number one, and to be number one,
yep.
You know, there's a price to be paid for
right,
that.
absolutely.
And there was another quick snippet of his daughter. No, it was his wife, his ex-wife. Whichever one it was. Like, apparently, like, he got married, and he was at home for like a day or two, and he just couldn't handle it, and he left. And his wife's like, that's just kind of who he was. He just wasn't really a family kind of guy.
I mean, seriously,
she loved him to death because it's funny how you ever notice how when they talk about when you watch shows about Hulk Hogan or Piper or Ric Flair or how about somebody else really Foley or anybody else, everybody talks about them in this way that they talk about. They're like, he was just the greatest guy and the most warm-hearted guy. And no one ever says, like, oh, he was a prick. I'm sure those people are out there.
Oh, sure.
I'm not saying that those people are out there. But the families are always like, no one's ever like, yeah, he wasn't around, but he was such a sweet person. He'd call all the time. He loved us so much. And because he was doing that for his family and putting himself through hell for his family and doing this and that. And it's just like, these guys are just, that's what some movies capture and some don't, is these larger-than-life characters who go all out for the people that they love and for their craft. Like, they commit themselves to being the best they can be, and then they take care of their family from doing that.
Right.
It's just really, and then there's always some kind of heartbreaking end to the whole thing. It's just really
right.
theatrical and genetic. It's just, that's just awesome. Like, yeah, I remember watching that when I'd watch that. I can't say I watched it religiously, but I was pretty into it there.
Dude, we would have, like, I would have, you know, like, friends sleep over, and we would, like, stay up late to watch wrestling. I mean, it was huge for us back then. We had different, like, action figures. Oh man,
action figures, cartoons, like you said.
Yeah, you had a wrestling ring, the squared circle. You know, I mean, there was so many cool things going on back then in wrestling.
What was I buying those things for at some point? I don't remember. There was somebody's kid was into that, and I was buying the wrestling toys.
Yeah.
And I didn't know one from another. I knew I had the list that he wanted.
Right.
And I just bought them. And then I remember being at Christmas, or was it a birthday? Fuck, I can't remember. My memory's starting to slide. And anyway, so the kid opened the gifts, and one of the adults there was just like, hey, man, where'd you find that? It's like, I got him. I'm going to Toys R Us. And he's like, that's a such and such. You can't get that anymore. And I was like, went over to the kid. I'm like, keep a close eye on your toy tonight. Trust that guy. He had his, like, the kid opened. He's like, oh my god! And the guy was kind of like, hey, I want that too.
Hey, buddy, hang on to your gift tonight.
But they sold the
Don't
ring.
Trust that guy.
You could buy the ring, you know, and you could do all that.
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan, and Hogan was, you know, Hogan was the entrepreneur inside of the merchandise thing, you know, like that was his deal. He started all that.
Just like George Lucas in the
He George Lucas did.
Yeah.
That's a term in Hollywood. George Lucas did.
George Lucas did. It's awesome.
Yeah, George Lucas did. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because he owned his own merchandise.
Well, I gotta say, man, what Vince McMahon did for the '80s in wrestling was monumental, right? I mean, there's so much I have just like fond memories of watching wrestling and just the characters, and they were larger than life. And all the crazy shit that was going on with the snake coming into the ring, and then you had the managers. Some didn't have managers. Why'd you need to have a manager anyways?
Yes, like why do like when they started getting talent managers involved, and McMahon was like, "What do you need that for? It's breach of contract." And because it makes sense now, because you didn't think about it at the time. I didn't. Where somebody be really cool and popular, and all of a sudden you just want to see him anymore.
Right.
Hey, so-and-so doesn't fight anymore. Obviously had some contract fallout with McMahon.
Right.
They all went their separate ways, whatever happened. Because, yeah, I remember when Jake the Snake, like, he was in everything, and then all of a sudden it was like, what happened to Jake the Snake Roberts?
Right.
At the time, you're like, I guess you got sick of it, moved on.
Exactly. You have no idea. You just you move on, and you don't have the internet to keep looking things. You just kind of forget about them.
Exactly. You can't go look shit up. You can't go, is his Twitter account still live?
Right.
You didn't do that shit.
Look at his videos again and his.
But I
tapes.
do remember when they started getting the girls involved.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
90s.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, I was just like, where do they find these women? Like, I need to go move there.
Well, isn't that where Glow comes from, right? Is them trying to womanize the sport, first of all. And then they brought him in a WWF.
In a much different way, yeah. The Glow Girls the Glow Girls to me seemed like they weren't real high-level athletes. They were just pretty hot in cool costumes and being goofy.
As long as the movie or the show Glow is accurate, you're right. Yeah.
Because when I watched Glow on Netflix, I went back and found some old episodes on YouTube, and that's pretty much not how I remember it, but that's what it was. Yeah, they did. It isn't like they're doing anything fancy.
No, not at all. Yeah,
strutting around it, far more theatrical than WWF ever was. Far more.
God, man, I don't know. WWF has been. I mean, the theatrics in those, man, with them Roddy Piper or with Macho Man Savage coming out with Elizabeth on a big throne, being carried out.
That was a big deal, man.
I mean, there was
that guy.
God.
Is he still alive? Is he still alive?
Oh,
Macho Man Savage?
I think didn't he just pass away too?
I think he's within the last few years. He did. I
remember Piper just died not too long ago, right?
Piper wasn't that long ago. That was felt like a big loss. And then,
yeah, he died in 2011. Savage.
Damn. So when Roddy Piper died, and what? In 2015, yeah, just a couple years ago.
Yeah, I knew it was a couple years ago. Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. So,
and then the let's see, the Ultimate Warrior died in 2014.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, Randy Savage 2011, Roddy Piper 2015, Ultimate Warrior 2014, Dusty Rhodes 2015. Jeez, man, these guys are dropping out, man.
Scary.
Scary.
So okay, let me ask you this, and I want to kind of recenter the focus of the timeline of wrestling. Who's your favorite '80s WWF Hulk Hogan wrestler?
I'm sorry, ask me again.
Who's your favorite 1980s Hulk Hogan era wrestler?
Piper.
Piper is? Okay, I figured you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say that too, but I think I have to say. Randy Macho Man Savage. There's also a huge love for Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yeah, I mean they're all cool. If taken the task, it'd be a hard balancing act for me. Let me go get you back to full screen. I was looking at all these terrible deaths from these guys. Like
right.
Wikipedia just popped up. I was like, whoa, look at all that. All in the last 6 years too, and or about that same age, I guess. And but Roddy Piper to me, because I met Macho Man Savage.
Oh.
I met him at the bar that I used to work at when I was going to college in the 90s, and Piper to me seemed like the reason that I prefer Piper is Piper to me seemed like a more interesting person. Maybe he wasn't as interesting in the ring as Savage was, like all the theatrics and with Elizabeth and all that. But Piper to me seemed like who you were looking at was pretty close to who he was at home, even though he was putting on a show. He just seemed like a more interesting guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And whereas Macho Man, and maybe it's because when I met Macho Man, he was a real guy. It wasn't like came in and was like, hey, you guys, I'm going to drink a beer. Is that okay with you? Like, it wasn't like he did that. Like it is. Which would have been fantastic if he did.
What did he sound like? What's his real voice like?
It's tone it down from there. Like, yeah, it's got that gravel to it, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that whole thing going on. Like, yeah, how you guys doing?
Like he's trying to hold from taking a shit. Oh
yeah, exactly. He doesn't have that whole tense thing. It's a real gravelly. So what had happened was they had one of the wrestling events were at the Silverdome or at the Palace or wherever the hell those things, I don't know. And we're close enough to there. That restaurant's close enough to their restaurant bar, and we were working the front door, and this guy comes in. I wasn't working the door. I wasn't taking the IDs, but I was there in the foyer. And this guy comes in wearing like a kind of like a big baggy Puma sweatsuit outfit.
Okay, yeah.
And if you were under the age of 35, we carded you. So the guy asked for his ID, and the guy's like, really? The guy's like, yeah, sorry, man, that's just policy. He goes, all right, man, no problem. And reaches in and pulls out this thick-ass fucking wallet. Like, fucking packed with cards and money and whatever else. He's got these big gorilla hands. And, like, you've ever, like, seen someone with, like, these enormous hands, like how small a driver's license looks in someone's hand like that? Like, it looks like he's pulling a peanut out of his wallet. And he hands it to the guy, and he looks at it, and he looks at it again, and he's like, he's handing it back to him, and the guy's like, yeah, you know who I am? It's not the right voice.
Right.
Yeah, you know who I am? He's like, are you? He goes, and then he did the voice. He's like, that's who I am. You know, and both is like, holy shit. And trying not to act like too big of geeks.
Right.
Just don't want to scare the guy away. He's like, yeah, you guys do it. Fucking cool guy. Fucking cool as hell.
Yeah.
And fucking cool as hell. So I won't belabor you with all the point on this that I always found the most interesting. Not the most interesting, was kind of like the different levels of people who like and dislike wrestling and what their opinion is of it.
Right.
So anyway, he goes and sits down. And he's with some other people that weren't wrestlers, and probably like his manager or whoever they're eating. So we go to the manager, who's this like college age woman, or maybe she was 26, 27, maybe. Real kind of a snotty chick, blonde girl. We're like, hey, Raji, Macho Man Savage is here. Can we pick up his tab? She's like, who? She knew damn well who the fuck he was. It's like, what? He's a WWF wrestler. She's like, we're not gonna buy some wrestler guy's food. We're like, he's Randy Macho Man Savage. You're not. And we used to pick up like the tab of the Lions and all this shit, and singers would come in all the time. Like, what's that guy who lives in Michigan's name? I'm not even sure why I brought this up anymore. Fuck. But I'll finish the story. So anyway, me and a bunch of other guys got together and we bought their dinner.
Oh wow.
And we just said, hey, it's on the house, you know, and so on. We paid for it. It wasn't like he went crazy or anything. He ate a couple plates of ribs, about what you'd expect a guy his size to buy, to get like, he ate like four meals.
Right.
And then they had like a drink and they left, you know. Cool. But we talked to him for like probably 20 minutes. Just a really nice guy, really cool guy. Hey, you guys want an autograph? And I was like, yeah, I gave it to somebody else because I don't do stuff like that.
Right.
So I gave it to somebody. But somebody, you know, and back then, like, has anybody got a camera? You know?
Yeah.
Because you don't have a camera, you don't have your phone.
Right.
You can't just take a selfie.
Exactly.
Back then, you're like, has anybody got a camera? Fuck, go across the street go to CVS and get a camera.
Exactly. You know? Get a disposable.
But that was that's my only real contact with the wrestling.
I have no stories like that. That's awesome, man. I'm jealous. That's cool.
Well, when I was in Iraq, WWF came to Iraq, and it was Big Show. It was Big Show, and two other guys. One guy was cool. One guy was a dick. Big Show was just the most immense human being I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah.
He was a humongous, huge person.
Yeah.
Huge head, huge hands. His wrists were like the size of my leg. I mean, he was just a huge person. And so they had a meet and greet in the cafeteria, and we were supposed to not do security, but just kind of keep the thing under control. Just make sure that people move through the line smoothly and that it was orderly and blah, blah, blah. And we honestly didn't think, it was me and this captain who was the mayor of the camp, honestly didn't think anyone was going to show up because we didn't like wrestling. And at that time, I felt like wrestling had fallen out of flavor.
Oh. Okay.
This was 2008, I want to say. We didn't know. Like, we didn't know. We were ignorant, okay? We didn't know. So as soon as word got out that they were there, people started coming in droves. We're like, fuck, we weren't really prepared for this. What we weren't prepared for was all the Pakistani Indians working in the cafeteria, in the dining facility.
Uh-huh.
They love wrestling. That is like a second religion for them.
Oh, wow.
So you've got all these guys who came from these like these like third world poverty level towns in India, probably watching old VHS tapes and like watching on these tiny little makeshift TVs with like rabbit ears and stuff. Well, these guys are now in their vicinity.
Yeah.
Well, they came out and they called their friends and they started coming to the dining facility. Before you knew it, there was hundreds of these Indians and Pakistanis in the dining facility.
Oh, nice.
Encroaching on this area like this swarm of zombies. And they were just, because in India, like, there's no personal space. So they're all shoulder to shoulder, back to back. Oh, shit.
Oh.
Getting excited. And they're all, like, just little by little taking, like, little shuffle steps forward. And when so you can't really tell that they're moving forward, but you look up and you're like, they've moved. Like, what the fuck's going on? And then, so we all started, like, getting in front of them, like, get back, get back, get back, get back, get back. And they're just looking at you like head bobble.
Brains.
You know, like, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. And it's like we're going to start fucking hitting these guys. Like, what the fuck? Well, it started to get so claustrophobic. Big Show looked around, and he slapped his hands on this cheap-ass table they had. I'm surprised it didn't break. And he goes, that's it. And he stood up, and the table just moved out of the way because he's so fucking big. And without needing anyone to get in front of him or for anybody to, you know, make a hole or anything, he just walked straight out the front door, and everybody just got out of his way because compared to an Indian, like, they probably came up to like his waist.
Right.
It's like just everything part of like the Red Sea, and he just walked out. And his handlers were going after him like, Big Show, wait. And he just walked out the front door.
Say, I'm not taking this anymore.
Yeah, it just got to be too much. I can't imagine sitting there. Dude, they were literally just like shuffling, like, and you couldn't stop them. They get back, get your hands on them, and the people behind them were pushing forward. You know, like God. At any time, if they decided at one point, like, we can't leave without touching Big Show, they would have.
Yeah, they would have ran over you guys.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing holding them back. You would have had to shoot them.
Yeah, you guys would have got stampeded.
There was no chance.
Right.
There was no chance. And then when the whole thing was over, the captain looked at me and he goes, "We're never doing this again."
Well, you are right to a point. I think wrestling did die off for a little bit there. It's still strong. But Big Show was a part of like that second hurrah for me.
Well, because I just didn't know. Like, I hadn't watched it in over a decade.
Oh, for sure.
And the captain, he was like this, you know, this kind of he was this cool fucking guy, Latino. You know, went to a lot of good schools. Like, he wasn't watching wrestling.
Right.
So we didn't ask anybody like, hey, you think anyone's going to show up for wrestling? We just, because we're such brilliant individuals, we're like, no one's going to counter this dude. bunch of wrestlers showing up for a day. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, no big deal. They'll be like,
hopefully 50 people show up. It's not a total disaster. Yeah, what a mistake that was.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, I mean, hey man, wrestling is popular, even if it's not. Even if there's no big superstars anymore, like they used to be. It's still very popular, you know. And I even got into it again, like when I was like in my late teens, going into my 20s. Into my 20s, yeah. I loved what they did with the WWF change. They got sued by the wildlife. World Wildlife Foundation.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why they changed the name from WWF to WCW or whatever it was.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, but then they came. What was cool? So you have Hulk Hogan, who started the whole thing, right? Or at least the popularity of it. It was around a lot longer before him, but and then in the late '90s, he became a bad guy, and all of a sudden. They founded, there were like all of a sudden teams within the wrestling organization. Like, so instead of just having like a tag team or a couple guys that team up all the time or they're friends and they're against these guys, no, you had groups, you had actual like teams forming, like the NWO, right? The wolf pack.
Oh, okay.
So you had like this. It was like a different type of thing going on within the ranks of. So you were trying to be with this group, but then some people would shift and they would like leave that group and go to this group, be the traitor. And so you had that big dynamic between teams and between groups, and it was really cool, man. And I was really like the darkness of it. You had, Savage came out at one point, I believe, with Hogan. I think he was out there at some point. But Hogan was old out there doing it. You had that's when you had The Rock. I think he was coming out. Goldberg was still out there.
Did that seem like it was a Hulk Hogan ran out of money, needed to come back to it? Or
I always thought
McMahon had like coerced him back into it to try to like save WWE, or like what was your take on it? I wasn't watching.
I don't think I had a take back then. I was simply 19, 20, 21. I don't know what the fuck was going on. I just watched it. But if I had to think about it now, I would say that I think Hulk needed something else to do.
Would you? What's your take on? It's a good point you made about being 19, 20. I don't have a take on it. Would you like to go back to those days of not being as concerned with things?
No.
As you are now, or do you like how you are now?
I like how I am now.
Okay.
I just when you're young, it's nice to be able to look at things with that youthful eye and not understand things yet.
Yeah, no, it is. It's an interesting time in your life. Like I think back to that because you kind of think you know everything, but you know nothing.
Right.
And I think everybody at some point in their life goes through this like I got it all figured out. Whether that's 15 or 20 or 25 or whatever, when you really have nothing figured out.
Right.
And nothing. Like I admit all the time I'm a fucking idiot. So I couldn't be any more ignorant about most things. And I was having a discussion with somebody the other day. That's why I asked you. We were talking about the benefits of age versus the benefits of youth and so on. It's like I'd love to be able to take like the way I understand the world now, but have the vigor and energy that I did like in my 20s.
Sure.
Like what could I accomplish now with that level of energy that I used to have?
Oh yeah,
just go out there. You just went out there and did it.
So I wish I could bring my younger youthfulness into my body now.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like I wish I had that same level of fuck it. I still have a very fuck it attitude, but not in the same way that like when you're 20, like there's no consequence. If you fuck something up, you're like, whatever,
I'm a
now when you fuck something up, it's like, shit, I gotta pay my fucking mortgage.
Right. I gotta pick my kid up from school. Shit. I might still be an idiot, but I mean, anybody who's in your 20s is a moron. They just don't. You might be smart, but you don't know anything.
You can be smart. You can be smart.
For all you young kids out there listening, I apologize for calling you morons, but come on, let's call it what it is.
Yeah, look, man, there's smart kids out there. But
I mean, when you don't. And what I mean by that is you don't really know anything. You might be book smart, but you haven't really been around. I mean, and everyone has different circumstances. Some people have lived harder lives than we'll ever live in those first 19 years, and they might have a different sense on what on what they're viewing. But I don't know. It seems like you don't really know what the hell you're doing. So.
Well, I'm gonna put it this way: if you're 22 and you've got your parents' credit card in your wallet and you're sipping a latte right now, chances are you don't know as much about the world as a lot of people.
Well, you don't get
There's
there.
A good chance of that.
You'll
get there.
It's called experience. It's called experience.
I still
don't know shit.
There's half the fun, man.
Yeah, right. But I
hope I get there at some point.
I'm still trying to get there. That's right.
I'm trying to get there. Bob, going down, taking a lot of left turns, but. I'm working on it. I can't even believe sometimes how much of a kid I am. Like I always thought, not that I ever thought about what I'd be like at this age, but like I think about now, I'm just like, oh, God, I'm a fucking idiot, man. Like the way I live my life. I've got a comfortable life. Like I'm good, but I do a lot of dumb shit. I do a lot of dumb shit. But I think that helps keep me young. It keeps me young.
It keeps you young. Yeah. There you go.
So I was at a party last week with some people that are. I mean, everyone here is older than me. Who am I trying to debate? If you're like the majority of expats here are older than me. There's some people who are kind of about my age. A couple people who are younger, but for the most part older. And like, hey, so blah blah blah, you doing this? No. You doing no? Doing that? No. They're like, what do you do all day? And I'm like, I don't want to say like I'm either drinking or I'm getting high. And then I went out with this girl. How old was she? I'd rather not say. Took my dog to the beach. My one dog attacked an old man.
Well, what do they expect you to do? Would you make a chair or something? Chop down a tree? I mean, what are you supposed to do?
I think there's just there's this expectation in life that I do not have, that you have to live your life a certain way. Like you should be married, you should have kids, you should blah 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 responsibilities, and I don't do any of that. You know?
Well, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
It's that like and when people talk to me about it, I'm just like, look, man, I'm happy, and all you people do is bitch about everything, and I'm fucking happy. So you guys, you just go about your own miserable lives and let me do my own.
Go about your own miserable, stinking lives.
There's this restaurant that I go to. I swear, maybe it's just a byproduct of age. I don't know. This restaurant I go to, super nice lady owns it, and it's kind of geared towards expats.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of expats that go in there. God, and they bitch and they bitch and they bitch about. I'm not saying this to bring politics on the conversation, but they bitch about politics, and I'm like, we live in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Stop watching CNN.
Stop watching any
Why
news.
are you doing that to yourself? Like, just get outside and go to the beach. It's 20 minutes away. You know. Some people self-imposed misery, man.
Turn off the TV. That's the first thing. Is turn off the TV.
Unless you're watching wrestling.
Exactly. Unless you're watching wrestling, right?
I guess I had to get us back on topic.
So, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch a lot of old clips now because I want to go see some of the '80s stuff, but I also want to go back to the '90s and when I was watching it again, and I want to see if it was as fun as I thought it was because dude, I was in college during this time, Michigan State.
Yeah, sure.
And I had friends come over. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was just my roommate, Rob. Rob, if you're listening to this, you'll remember this. It was your buddy Jeff and somebody else. And maybe one of my friends, maybe Tom, I don't know, and we would open up the whole living room, and we would put stuff all around it, like so we could fall and not hurt ourselves, and we would wrestle.
Wait, how old were you?
Dude, college, man.
That's awesome. Like, I would have never thought about you doing that. That's awesome.
This is a couple years before I met you, yeah.
No, continue, please.
So we would clear out the room. We would put everything soft around it so that we could have our turnbuckles and all that stuff to jump off and all that.
Uh-huh.
And we would wrestle. And we would wrestle and we would do moves on each other, and it was so fucking stupid. And it was so exhausting. Like it was literally like you wiped out in 5 minutes.
Did anybody ever get seriously hurt?
No. I mean, we weren't really doing anything that crazy, but
somebody I know. This is a fucking idiot, man. When I was same bar I was working at, somebody did a suplex on somebody in the parking lot.
Oh dear God!
And that I don't think that guy was ever the same again. I mean, he shook it off at the time, but he didn't come to work the next day.
I'm sure he shook it off. Yeah, man.
Just goes to show. It's just like this concrete out here, man. It's a parking lot.
Right, and people think it's real, man. That's what I think.
What are you guys thinking?
When you're a certain age, you think that stuff can be real, and they make it seem like it's real because they're good, right?
Well, it's like I can do that with some level of practice. I could do that.
Right.
There's always that I could do that, which is why there's so many disclaimers now on everything. Don't try this at home, because like we survived, but you may not.
Here's the thing. Okay, when they're punching and they're kicking, it's obviously fake. Right, you can see how fake it is because they're kicking the mat with their foot to make it sound like they're punching. Right, and they're not kicking very hard. But it's the stuff like the dynamic stuff, jumping off the turnbuckle, flying and headbutting somebody like that, or there's all those different moves that are crazy.
Dude, when a 300-pound man jumps off the turnbuckle at you, and you catch him and you land on your back, it's rehearsed, and I realize that's a move, but that's got to take its toll, man.
Right.
That's just, you're 300 pounds and this other guy's 300 pounds. Your skeleton's getting beat the fuck up.
Right.
Who was talking about Hulk Hogan? Stone Cold was talking about, no, it was Bill Burr talking about meeting Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
He was at a thing and he met Hulk. He was like looking, he's like, is that Hulk Hogan? And he looks so short. And Hulk Hogan came over and they shook hands, blah, blah, blah. kind of, he didn't know who Bill Burr was, but Bill Burr was like, hey, I'm a big fan. But he's like, the guy was like 6'1" or 6'2", and
I think he's bigger than that. Hulk.
Yes, that's just it. Oh. Stone Cold says, oh yeah, at one point he was 6'8". Yeah, he was. But when you do that atomic drop or whatever that fucking thing was he used to finish people with,
right?
You do that 3 times a week for 10 years, your spine compresses.
Oh wow.
So yeah, now he is 6'1" or 6'2". Because what Bill Burr had said, he goes, he had these crazy-ass, long-ass arms. He goes, yeah, because those arms were for a guy who was 6'8".
Oh.
But now his spine's so compressed that, yeah, he's like 6'2". Isn't that crazy?
Dude, I know you can't see me out there watching, but my mouth was just dropped.
That floored me. And Stone Cold was like, he just said it real matter of fact, like, well, yeah, he used to be 6'8". He's not anymore. A lot of those guys got compressed discs and this, and their neck is this,
fucked up.
And whatever up. Yeah, can you imagine the amount of pain he must be in?
Yeah, that's insane, man.
Fuse this, fuse that to put him back together and keep him going. And what was up with, like, why did they give him such a hard time about that sex tape? What was the big deal about that? So what?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, they always want to.
I wish they'd get off going after people about all this stupid image. It's all image too. There's no, like, what I dislike now is there's no more judge, jury until proven innocent or proven guilty. It's like if it's on Twitter, it's, your image is ruined. Image now is everything.
Yeah.
So if your image is ruined, it's all over. So I mean, Hulk Hogan, like, the guy is okay. Now he's not 6'8", but he's 6'2". He's lived this. He's a wrestler. He wrestled. He beat people up in a ring for a living as entertainment. Was bigger than, larger than life. Okay, he's banging a hooker or a maid or whatever it is. What do you expect out of the guy? Right. That's who he is.
Right.
Like, it isn't like, if Tom Hanks did that, it's like, Tom Hanks did that? That doesn't sound right. He's such a clean-cut guy and so nice, and he's Forrest Gump. But Hulk Hogan, you're like, yeah, I expect Hulk Hogan to do that.
It's the personality, man. It's just that, there's that.
That's just
that wild
card.
Yeah,
they're just wild people.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. They're such interesting people. That's why they were so engaging to watch, and it was so colorful and fun, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I used to love. And if I had to, pick my favorite, I would definitely say the '80s over the late '90s, where I was watching again. But it still was a lot of fun when I was older, even though I knew 100% it wasn't real. It was just fun, And I bought into it. I bought into it for a couple years there. And then I said, you know what? I don't really want to watch this anymore.
But when you think about that early debate back in the early the late 70s and 80s about, oh, wrestling's not real, and the wrestlers used to get upset. Of course it's real. It is real in the sense that there's two guys and they're throwing each other around.
Right.
But there's no way you could take two men over 300 pounds and well over 6 foot hitting each other in the face and throwing each other around, and one of those guys is not going to come out of there on a hospital gurney. Right. It's not possible.
Nope.
So
yeah, exactly.
Like if Hulk Hogan would have slapped me in the face, like, I'd be in the emergency room. If he did it for real.
Oh,
did it for real.
Before I forget, I just realized I've been thinking about, I saw a wrestler one time at a Comic-Con or an auto show. At an auto show, I think.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
it was on an auto show in Detroit, and I remember walking, and I looked next to me, and it was Mick Foley.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And then
another big family guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I remember I recognized him, and then I kept walking. And I tried to get my camera out. It was about a camcorder.
Oh, right.
Try to take a picture of him, but I couldn't get it. Yeah. I don't give a shit. I don't really care about wrestling anymore. But it was kind of cool.
Doesn't mean as much to me.
Right. But that was after my second love.
Well, that dude, a guy I went to high school with, he's into this Diamond Dallas Page yoga.
Yeah, I know him.
DDP yoga, yeah. And that's a big deal for him because he was a big wrestling fan.
Right.
So he got to meet Diamond Dallas Page at his yoga retreat.
Oh, is that right?
He was just like, oh my God, I got to meet him and this and that. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. He had a hot wife that kept coming to the stage, just like Elizabeth.
Yeah. Yeah, the woman.
But there's a lot. I mean, that was the Rock, Stone Cold. There was a segment of there. There were some really engaging characters, man. I don't think that's what's missing now.
That's as close as we've gotten. Well, you could argue WWF. I mean, you could argue UFC has taken that place, but that's as close as we were able to get to the old timey Gladiator battles.
Yeah.
Two guys in there just beating snot out of each other, and one victor, and the personality. Because that was the same when you read everything about the history books. Is that was there was always the stars,
Right.
and they would pad the deck. They'd find people who weren't as good to ensure that they won.
Right.
And they keep that going because the popular people, kept the masses happy and kept that we didn't, okay, there's no food, there's no water, but there's a big arena battle tonight. Yay, okay. And they kept the masses entertained.
Right.
And there's a distracted, and the same thing goes on now.
Uh-huh.
We're distracted by NFL,
Yeah.
WWF, and you're distracted by something.
Yeah.
Something you're distracted by. It's the whole. That's why the big money's there.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious. I'm actually going to go look up when this is over. Like the average. I'm going to look it up right now. Average pay for a WWF wrestler in the '80s. I'm going to look it up, see if we get a response.
While you're looking up that, we talked about Glow, and the impact of that show. I thought it was really well done, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that because I want to see them more in the ring, not just practicing. I want to see them actually as wrestlers.
Yes.
But remember the whole Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler thing.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, so you talk about wrestling and Hulk Hogan. This is well before Hulk Hogan, but this was a stunt for. If anyone who doesn't know about this, if you're listening to the Jay Craig here and you don't know about Andy Kaufman, the famous comedian from the '70s, go check out his. I'm going to call them skits with Jerry Lawler, where he banged down this wrestler. And they got into a wrestling match, and they orchestrated this huge thing, and like one of the guys, and then they acted like Andy broke his neck. So Jerry Lawler does a body slam or something, and Andy Kaufman has comes the next day, has a thing around his neck, right?
He was on Letterman like that.
Yeah, Letterman, yeah, right. And they slaps him, and then they get into a slapping match.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and he's like, "I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you."
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Hey, all right, listen to this. Okay, Stone Cold Steve Austin, WCW in 1991, he made $75,000. In WWF in 1999, he made between $5 and $12 million.
$5 and $12 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder how much that money he still has.
He made $75,000 at first. Okay.
When he first started out, it looks like not bad. But back then, that was good.
Oh yeah,
that was a good purse. Kevin Nash, WCW 1990.
Loved Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash did not do well. WCW 1998, $1.5 million. You probably burned through that pretty quick. Who am I to say that?
Kevin Nash was in one of the. He's in acting too now too.
Okay, Lex Luger, who he is.
Lex Luger, yep.
WCW 1991, $500,000. It's a lot of money in 1991. Shit. In WWF 94, $350,000. So he had to work his way back up. And then in 95 to 2001, $350 to $1 million to 1.2. It's a big range. I don't know what the hell that's all about.
And that's Lex Luger.
That's Lex Luger. Scott Hall.
Also known as Razor Ramon.
He looks like a steroided up Tom Selleck. $400,000 WWF 1995. These guys are doing really well for themselves.
That's when I was watching. The second time.
Vader?
Yeah, he had like a red mask. Had nothing to do with Vader.
Yeah, Vader time. WCW 93, $625,000.
Oh wow, you got paid a lot in '93.
Yeah, the guys are making good money. Randy Savage, here we go. WWF 1998, $1 million and $1 million in WCW in 90. So in 80, $1 million in 88.
Oh.
And $1 million in 98. So you didn't have that big of a range. Looks like.
Thought he made $1 million? $1 million a year?
That's what it says, yeah.
What did Hulk make then? Jesus.
I'm working my way up to him. Paul Heyman? I don't even know who that is.
I know that name. I don't know who he was though. I think he was the.
Why was Paul Heyman so quick to jump from the sinking ECW ship to the WWF in 2001? Maybe it was a $250,000 salary that Vince McMahon offered him. Oh, that'd be it. Yeah. Okay. Now, granted, folks, I'm only reading off one source. Brock Lesnar, $250,000 in a development contract. God, that's a good deal. $1 million talent contract in 2003, and $5 million in the WWE in 2012. And he made like $25 million in his last UFC match.
Who was that? Brock Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar. Dennis Rodman?
Yeah, he wrestled for just like a guest.
Oh, yeah, there's a picture of him and Hogan squaring off. $1.5 million WCW in 1997.
Oh, wow.
It's not a bad after basketball purse there.
And that's just like for like couple fights, couple matches.
They paid Mike Tyson $3.5 million in 1998 at WWF. And Vince McMahon had some deep-ass pockets.
I didn't know Mike Tyson was in wrestling.
He was just in one match, as far as I know. Sting.
Yep.
$1.25 million per year in WCW 2000.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. China.
Yeah.
She's dead now.
She's dead. Yep.
$1 million in 2000.
There's a sex tape with her out there too.
I'm sure there is. Bill Goldberg. This is the guy I was trying to think of his name.
Yep, Goldberg.
$2 million in WCW 2000 and $1 million in WWE 2003. He was doing well. Then he was in some bad Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
Yes. Well, not even Jean-Claude. It was Universal. Yeah, that's right. Universal
Soldier.
Yeah.
Big Show. $950,000 a year on a 10-year WWF deal.
Oh, wow.
In 99. So he made a big payday there. That's a good contract.
Made almost $10 million.
Ric Flair. $750,000 a year in WCW, $500,000 a year in WWE.
WWE, that's what they changed it to. That's right, WWE.
Yeah. This figure comes out of what he claimed at his divorce hearing, so I'm sure he made a lot more.
Right.
The Ultimate Warrior, $2 million a year in WWF 90 to 91.
Huh. He was awesome to watch. Crazy.
He went from making $550 a year when he came up in a match in WrestleMania 7 against Randy Savage, and then he made $650,000 for a title fight against Hogan, and then he moved on to making $2 million a year.
Wow.
Good for him.
He was awesome. That's what I'm saying, man. This kid was so fun.
Kurt Angle.
He was a gold medal winner.
Okay, $1 million in 2006.
Gold medal winner in wrestling.
Okay.
Olympics.
Then he joined the TNA, and his salary got cut by like 60%.
TNA.
Never heard of it.
I think that was another wrestler.
Shawn Michaels.
Heartbreak Kid.
Oh yeah, $1 million a year in his WWE contract.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan.
Here we go. Okay, finish it off.
You want to make a guess?
$3 million.
Okay. No, per year in the 80s.
Per year in the 80s, he made 1.5.
$10 million per year in 1980s WWF.
Wow.
Hulk Hogan has stated in his autobiography that he was. Oh, this is what he said. He was making $10 million per year in his Hulkamania peak. Now this is Hulk talking, so take it with a grain of salt. Austin made up to $12 million in his peak, so that's not too far fetched.
Oh man, Stone Cold Steve Austin was making $12 million in his peak.
Yeah.
Right.
He was well over $1 million in his WCW years and commanded a relative package when returning to WWE in 2000. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, man, those guys made a lot of money, and they paid for it.
Some big money, man.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I mean, and they paid for it. So, a lot of fun though, man. Wrestlers are just such an interesting breed.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, man, and I'm kind of tapped out on wrestling. You got anything else?
No.
Okay. So
I want to reiterate that I was shocked that you're a wrestling fan.
Hey, we learn something new about each other all the time, right?
Yeah, I guess so, man.
But I really did like wrestling, and it was two different sports again. But it's so fun if you like. I kind of want my kids to. In fact, I remember trying to find it somewhere. I didn't look hard enough. I want to show the kids old wrestling clips from the '80s,
right?
You know, and show them the matches and show them like the whole show. Right, and see what they think about it, right? Because I thought that was really cool back then.
Are you sure you want to do that? Because they're going to be doing like drops off the top rope.
They already do, so I'm just I'll be teaching them better form.
They'll be running around in their underwear. I'm Hulk Hogan. No, I'm Hulk Hogan.
Exactly.
I'm Randy Savage.
I'm Roddy Piper. So
What a new Slim Jim.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So for everyone out there. Listening to the J. Craig to this most unique episode of the J. Craig, where we talked about wrestling. So hopefully you're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. If you are, please like it, or follow us, or subscribe to us. We appreciate that.
All right, please.
Absolutely.
And remember to, if you like wrestling, remember to watch. If you haven't seen Beyond the Mat, I recommend watching Beyond the Mat.
Yes, I wrote that down. I'm going to check it out.
Downfall of Jake the Snake Roberts. And on the 7th of November is ESPN's 30 for 30, Ric Flair, Nature Boy.
November 7th. Fantastic. And I'm going to go see Thor tomorrow.
Yeah, you got to let me know what you think about it.
I'm excited. And very cool, man. Well, happy Halloween, by the way.
Hey, man, happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Did you guys dress up?
No, it all happened so fast. The kids were acting crazy. The grandmas come in, and because they were going to watch the house and give out candy while we went out with the kids. And the grandmas come in, and they just like, my mom immediately gives them something to open. We're trying to feed them so we can get ready to get out of here, get dressed.
Yeah, right.
And then she immediately comes in, gives them a thing with candy in it. So they're all doing that. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And then she starts talking to us. We're like, we're trying to eat. You're half hour early. You're really fucking us up.
Which grandmother is this?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Both came over to help out, and we're like, oh, you're half hour early. You just disrupted the whole fucking thing. Anyway, no, we didn't dress up, but...
is this the first time you guys ever dressed up since you met?
Yes.
Wow.
It's scary, actually.
Yeah.
That might be foretelling. So...
Sorry I pointed that out.
Yeah, thank you. The boys were, though, they've been going through different costumes all the time for all these things. They did wear for Halloween Craig's X-Wing and Stormtrooper outfits.
If I would have, I think that's amazingly cool, and I've seen Tina sent me a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. But I thought that was amazingly cool. If I would have known, I would have found a helmet online for Jesse and sent it to you. I just didn't think of it.
You know what? It is what it is. I did find a way to fix it, though. I found foam.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I just had. I didn't think he was going to wear it for Halloween. He kept saying he's going to be General Grievous and changed his mind 15,000 different times. He's like me.
Cool.
So, at any rate, all right, my friend. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the J. Craig, YouTuber and beyond. And
yes,
keep on listening.
Keep on talking. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.